the format is I'm going to introduce the alumni, and then I'm going to let them each say a little bit about themselves, like a self-introduction. And then there's a series of questions that we prepared, and I will ask them each to talk about maybe 3 or 4 topics, and then we'll open it up to questions. Okay, so I'm going to start with, in the order it's on the agenda and the announcement. I'm going to start with Keikilani Cabus, who did his BA in Japanese Studies and finished in 2017, and I'm going to let him do a brief self-introduction. Keikilani?
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Keikilani. I graduated in 2017, and then after I graduated, I went to Japan for a JET program for about 5 years. And I chose Japanese studies because I really like baseball, and then Japanese baseball players always were interesting to me when I was playing in my community college. And then when I chose the program, I was looking at other UCs, and I really liked UC San Diego because all the evaluations said that the speaking, if you graduate from there, your speaking gets a lot better. And then the other places focused on writing. So yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Next I'm going to introduce Megan. Megan Murata finished in winter quarter graduation in 2019. Megan?
Ready. Hi. So yes, I finished with a BA in Japanese Studies in winter quarter 2019. Just on the off chance that if I did get selected to go in April on JET, that I could do that. I did not get selected to go in April, but I did go in July. And I was there for 3 years until just this past July. So yeah, I ended up at UCSD because I visited and fell in love with the campus, and also because it had 5th year Japanese. I, at that point, had already taken a couple community college classes while I was in high school. So I was coming in with a little bit more of a background, and I wanted to be able to really make the most of my time language-wise in school.
Thank you, Megan. And the third alumni we have is Jack Stovold, and he finished Japanese Studies major in 2007, and he is in Japan now, I believe. Jack?
Yep, that's right. It's Saturday morning for me right here. Yeah, I also went the community college route. I'd been interested in Japan since I was a kid, and I took a few classes at community college, and then I was able to transfer to UCSD. And I also love the campus. It's a beautiful campus, and not only could I take the Japanese classes, which I've been really excited about, but the whole program included classes about, politics, history, pop culture, cinema, all that stuff. So, and I was able to study abroad through the program. So I was able to study in Chiba for half a year. And then basically after I graduated, I moved here, and I've been here ever since.
Thank you, Jack. Now, so the first thing Jack, I know you're having some glitchy internet stuff, but what I said, I think just before you joined, was we have 2 or 3 questions, and we'll ask them, and then we'll have each of you in order respond to those, and then we'll open it up for discussion. So
Okay.
Keikilani, I'll start with you, but I'll ask each of you to say a little bit about your current affiliations, what you're doing right now, and how I think the students who are here today would like to know, and I think actually the faculty too, because we know all you guys, we'd sort of like to know what happens after you graduate from UCSD, and how do you get from that point to where you are now? And where are you now in your careers? So yes, Keikilani, would you like to start?
So after I graduated, like when you graduate with Japanese studies, the first thing you do is, okay, you gotta get to Japan. First thing you do, you gotta get to Japan as quick as possible. any route you can go through, jet, anything. So once I got over there, I was only gonna stay 3 years, and then it went to 4, and then it went to 5, and then like so I just like ended up staying the whole time when the full 5 years. And after I finished that, I wanted to go back to school before I go back to Japan again. And so now, when I came back from Japan, I started a car shipping business. I don't have any business cards yet, but the name is called AmeQ, so like Amesha and Kyusha, so like a mix. So then there's a car group I was a part of when I was in Fukushima, and they really like lowriders, Chicano culture. My family is part Chicano, so then I started talking with them, and it was different because I was an American guy with a Japanese car, and all the Japanese guys are with American cars. It was weird to drive with them because they're all going up and down, and mine's just like going 55. So after I came back from Japan, I shipped over my car, trying to do one car at a time. And there's a big car culture now in California for Japanese cars. So then I'm trying to get parts for people that want stuff, and it's very painful on how long it takes, but it's a lot of fun. And then now I'm gonna go back to school in September, August is when school starts, I think. So I'll be back at UC San Diego.
Yeah, and tell them what program you'll be in.
In GPS, the Global Policy and Strategy. I think it's near the football field. I can't remember the campus. That part
Over
of the
by REMAC. Yeah.
Yeah, REMAC. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Megan, same question for you.
Sure. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with Keikilani. Like you graduate and you wanna go to Japan because you spend all this time studying, like, let's go. In my case, like I graduated a semester early, or sorry, quarter early. So I ended up working a couple different temp jobs as like an admin assistant, so that I could stay, pay rent, etc., as well as prepare to go on jet. I was down in Yamaguchi Prefecture, which is the last prefecture before you hit Kyushu. And I really enjoyed it there. I was there for 3 years. And I really wish that I was going back this week so I could see my kids graduate. But unfortunately, I'm currently busy for my current position, so that's not happening. Maybe for Bunkasai though. But I was there for 3 years and I really enjoyed it. And on some level, I could have stayed longer, but I was also starting to feel like, okay, if I do stay longer, career-wise, how am I growing? How am I challenging myself there? And I couldn't really come up with a good answer. So I was like, okay. So I decided that my 3rd year on jet would be my last year. If you go on jet, they do actually have career fairs for people looking for positions in Japan. So I attended those. Wasn't a great fit for some of the positions. There were some there I thought I was a great fit, but the company didn't like me. It happens, you know, such it is. So I looked for a place or a position back in the States and found one at a tech startup company where I would be working in HR. And at the time I was like, okay, well, I have no real background in HR, but I had done admin assistance, and that was enough of a foot in the door to get into HR. At the same time, I was seeing a number of positions in Japan for people with, 3 years of general HR experience in America. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll go do that for 3 years and then come back to Japan and work in HR and continue my career that way and go from there. Unfortunately, that didn't quite work out. I didn't actually end up working very much HR. I was in finance. And then through the JET alumni newsletter, the position that I currently work for came up at the Japan Foundation, Los Angeles. So currently I am a Japanese language program coordinator, which is a fancy way to say that I currently read and review applications for 2 of the 4 language grants that the foundation offers. But it's also a really great chance in terms of networking. I'm working with one of my coworkers for, a visit from a delegation from Japan coming quite soon. There are a lot of different opportunities for me to get my foot in the door, networking wise, and also just in terms of, language usage. You get to use Japanese at the office. It's great. I love it. So I get a lot more opportunities to practice my Sonkeigo and Kenjogo, which didn't do as much when I was actually in Japan.
Thank you, Megan. Jack, you're next.
Yes, as similar to what Megan Keikilani said, I wanted to get there as soon as I could. So I kind of went the conventional route. I got a job at one of the major English teaching schools. And they went bankrupt almost immediately, went out of business. But fortunately, I had, through previous experiences in Japan, I had people here who I knew who helped me out. And I was able to get through that. And then for many years, I worked in public schools, junior high school and elementary school, teaching kids, and that was that can be a lot of fun. And I got to work at so many different schools and meet so many different teachers. And eventually I moved back into English conversation, and now last year I finally got out of that industry, and now I'm actually working at a university as like the international coordinator. So I get to use Japanese in my job. I get to do a little bit of everything. I do some translation. I do English proofreading. I teach, private one-on-one lessons with the university students. And basically anything the office asks me to do. So I get to use Japanese every day. And I'm also, that's a lot of practice for my Kenjogo and Sonjogo as well. So yeah, it's really great. And then I'm really happy where I'm at now, down in Fukuoka.
Thank you, Jack. So the next question we thought we'd ask you all to comment on about, because even though you have interests in Japan when you come to UCSD, you don't necessarily, not everybody with interest in Japan will become a major or a minor. And we wanted to ask you to just tell us what made you choose to major, or I think all of you majored, but major or minor in Japanese studies. Yeah, Keikilani, we'll start with you again.
So when I was at Alumni, I was in a community college near my hometown, and I was taking some Japanese classes there, and I didn't really like taking other foreign languages like Spanish or French or anything. I don't know, it just felt too close to English. And then there's no, like, Spanish, there's a lot of family members speak Spanish. So I was just like, I wasn't really interested in that. But then when I was doing Japanese, it's kind of, I don't know, it frustrated me on how difficult it was. But then I enjoyed how difficult it was. Like, if I get it, I was like, yeah, all right. And then I'm like, oh, here's another kanji I don't know. Even when I was in Japan, I just walking down the street, I'm like, oh, I know that one. I don't know the rest of the sentence. Okay, I'm just gonna keep walking. But yeah, when I was looking at different universities, like Riverside, UCLA, and even Berkeley was like nearby. Like what Megan said, like San Diego had up to 5 years of Japanese. In other places, they only do 2 or 3, and then after you do 2 or 3, then you don't really learn any more Japanese. You just have to take cultural like courses on history and stuff. But when I saw that they had 5 years, I was like, oh, okay. And then I saw they also had like a business class, like a business like project-based class, and I really enjoyed like doing project stuff. So then I started doing more research on like the professors, saw the professors, ooh. So yeah, that's why I ended up choosing UC San Diego's Japanese program. And then there was some also like really good history courses that they had there. Like I like to take the courses with Mrs. Matsumura, Professor Matsumura. She's from Okinawa, and her family grew up in Hawaii. So then I started talking with her. I walked by her office and always like end up having conversations with her. And just every class, her classes were very difficult, but I just enjoyed just being in the atmosphere of learning about more technical, political items on Japan. But yeah, it was a lot of fun though.
Thank you. Megan?
So yeah, no, I decided to major in Japanese because I knew I wanted to really focus on the language in college. Like I said before, I had taken some language colleges when I was in high school, language classes when I was in high school, because my high school was in upstate New York, and it just so happened that we had a large number of colleges relatively close by, so I could leave school slightly early and get to class. So the fact that UCSD had 5 years, and as Keikilani said, the business course as well, it's like, okay, well, if I want to work in Japan, I should have some of that experience as much as possible before I go. I also really, really enjoyed the history classes. I really liked the poli-sci one that I took, and I wish I remembered that professor's name, but it was really, really cool. And when I actually went on study abroad and then proceeded to take a very similar poli-sci course, because I wanted to see, okay, well, is it going to be any different what's taught in Japan versus what's taught at UCSD in America? And there was a very different focus, and it was very interesting to compare the two, but I really, really enjoyed that initial course because that really sparked my interest in political science in Japan. But yeah, just in Japanese, with Japanese in general, I mean, I'm half, my dad's Japanese. He came over when he was 7, and he went to some Saturday schools to keep up his Japanese, but that wasn't an option when I was growing up. So instead, I was a very much born and raised otaku. So he would translate the classic manga to me on the fly, which I thought was amazing. But, you know, I grew up listening to Mighty Atom, Tetsuan Atom, or Black Jack, Mitsume no Ko, Ultraman, Kikaida, Kamen Rider. Like, I grew up with all of these things from like the 60s and 70s. And I thought it was absolutely amazing that he could translate on the fly and have it sound like a story. And so for that reason, I keep trying to reach that point where I can do that, because, you know, I don't have any kids. I'm not currently planning on having any kids, but I still think that that's an amazing thing to have and to be able to do. So
Great, thank you. Jack, your decision to major or minor in Japanese studies?
Yeah, sorry about I don't know what's going on with the camera, but it was a similar thing for me. I looked at different schools. Sorry, am I still here?
You are.
Okay, yeah. So I looked at different schools, and I'll turn that off. But in the area, like UCSD was far and away the best choice for me, and I'm lucky enough to have grown up in the area, so it was a real easy choice. Like as the other two said, it was the only school around that had, like, you know, a full 5 years of courses, because I didn't want to just take the beginning courses again. I wanted to keep going. Yeah, it was just the courses. I would have taken a minor. I should have minored in something else, though, I think, because I think it works best if you pair it with something else. So you have the language skills and another skill as well. But but I always wanted to major in it. Like when I was in high school, my Spanish teacher used to get mad at me because I was writing Japanese on my papers instead of Spanish. So it was just that was what I wanted to do, full throttle. So that was my choice. And as the other students said, it was the I think I took the same poli-sci class. It might have been Professor Tanaka. I'm not sure. He was very interesting though. And yeah, it was just my opportunity to really, I really wanted to do the language, and I'm glad I did.
You know, the next question we had planned to ask you all is what you most enjoyed about the Japanese studies program and your time here, and what your favorite classes were. But mostly you've sort of touched on your favorite classes already. So I'm going to let you say more about what your favorite experience was here, if you like. But I'm going to move on to also the next question, which is because you've really already talked about that. And I think the next thing we wanted to know is how your Japanese studies major, minor, and what you learned in the program, how that may have helped you either with personal or professional development and personal and professional goals. Keikilani?
So starting at a junior college, you kind of, it's like very humble beginnings because you're like, I don't have any money. I want to go to school, but junior college is like the cheapest way to go. And there's that whole I get the transfer thing, and the whole process of applying after you get all the general ed stuff done. And then it's just scary because like if you don't, like the way you produce like certain grades in like junior college is like seen different for universities. So like you could be really good in your junior college, but then they're like, it's just a junior college. So you kind of lose a lot of confidence. But then once I got in, I was like, oh, I can actually do this. So yeah, it's hard to explain. Yeah, after I graduated, like it felt like it really prepared me, like especially the business class with Takeda Sensei. I'm sorry, I did dumb stuff sometimes. Yeah, it was fun because like we got to do a lot of project stuff and learn like certain vocabulary based on the project that you're doing. And I took that and I used it like when I was teaching in Japan, and a lot of the kids, like I kind of took the example from all of the Japanese teachers at UCSD and applied it to how I taught the students in Japan. Because a lot of the kids, they don't want to do anything they're not interested to. So I was like, why don't you just learn the words you like? Like, I don't know what to talk about in English. I was like, talk about what you like. You don't need to talk about all the stuff you don't like. So some of the kids, like even for baseball kids, I teach them English words in baseball, and like it was hard because the cultural difference for certain sports, like you're supposed to like take your hat off and bow before you go on the field, and I just walk on the field and all the students, what are you doing? You disrespect the field. So but yeah, it helped a lot on my teaching side as a jet. And because I was teaching at a lot of different schools, and whenever I thought about how should I teach, I would just think back on some of the professors I had in university. I was like, oh, projects is always the easy way. Like make a project that's something that you like, and then bring in important vocabulary that you use every day. But yeah, some of the kids, they bring up vocabulary I've never heard of before. They're like, "Cho tension age" or something. I don't know what they're saying. They're just like, "Oh, Geiksetsu, do this." I was like, "Oh, okay." I would just copy them, and then they just laugh and run away. So, but yeah, especially the classes that I took really helped me be better as a teacher in Japan, though. So yeah.
Megan?
Yeah, I mean, I have one thing to add to my previous answer. I of course have one of the classes that I very much enjoyed was Japan 190. And it wasn't because you just let me write as many pages as I want. I promise, Professor Turner. Although thank you for reading the very long.
Yes, for Megan, the task was always how long can I write, not what's the minimum page limit.
I'm still surprised you did not put a page cap on my honors thesis. So thank you for that.
I had a lot to say.
I did. Anyways, but in general, I do think the classes prepare me very well. I mean, I agree, like language, like in terms of teaching the language, I mean, growing up, it was in my household, at least, it was a lot of English and some random Japanese words. So to be able to tell the kids like, yeah, no, okay, I know you like baseball. You are on the baseball team. You tell me about it every day I'm in this class. Tanaka-kun, like, it's a short shoukai, like, just, you like baseball, right? Yeah. Talk about baseball. Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, okay. Like, it was very much like, yes, teaching the kids, but also teaching them that, yeah, it doesn't just have to be grammar. You can, you know, focus your efforts on what parts of this really speak to you, and like, why would you want to learn English? And for some of them, they're just kind of going through the motions, and you know, you try and reach them, and sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. But for some of the kids, you know, they're so enthusiastic about these things in Japanese, and you're like, you can be enthusiastic about that in English too. And it's like they never considered that. So I agree, projects are really good. Just games in general, like trying to you know, engage them in games in English. Jeopardy was very popular, very, very popular. Took a little bit to explain, but was incredibly popular. Along with a couple of other like stand-up sit-down games, so that they're like moving, even if it's not necessarily all around the classroom, but that was also very engaging for them. But no, I think the fact that at UCSD, I was, and some of this is college, but some of this was the professors as well, is that I was able to really explore what elements of Japan and Japanese spoke to me that I had the most interest in. And so I feel like that made me that much more confident when I went on JET to be able to try and offer that to my students as well. Like, obviously don't go beyond what the JTEs are trying to do, and not derailing the class totally, but like within the structure as much as possible. Like, yeah, no, you can do what you like. You can learn about what you like to do, and it can be in English, and that can make things a lot more interesting, because if you really like baseball and you want to watch the World Series, wouldn't that be really cool to watch in English and like understand more of what they say? So
Excellent, thank you. Jack?
Yeah. So I think basically, yeah, the being in part of this program really helped me feel prepared in a way that I think a lot of other people who come to Japan without necessarily having studied often are not. And I see them being frustrated often. So I think it was, you know, my main interest was in taking the language courses, but all the other courses I got to take were fantastic, and they really prepared me in a lot of different ways, so many different contexts. So, you know, I think a lot of people have a very like narrow view of Japan before they actually go there. And, you know, through this program, I was able to see, you know, serious things, funny things. You know, one of my favorite classes, I remember we were watching, you know, we spent a few weeks just watching one scene from Shall We Dance, the movie. And you know, everything can be so serious. It seems so serious sometimes when we're talking about Japan, but then watching this movie, it's like, oh, you can see the common humanity. This guy is like shy and funny, and so we watched the scene over and over again until we, you know, we understood every single line that was being said, and that was kind of a thrilling moment. Like, oh, for, you know, for at least this 5 minutes at least, I understand every single thing they're saying in this, and that was kind of like a breakthrough moment. And also, I think kanji is a big stumbling block for a lot of people, and if you're only taking, you know, 2 or 3 years at a junior college or something, they just, I think because a lot of students have struggled with it, they kind of just let it slide often. But when you're in the 5-year program, they make you learn them, and thank God for that, because that's very, very important. And through that, I was actually, suddenly I realized I was becoming fascinated with these kanji characters, and now, you know, they're like Pokemon for me. I got to catch them all. So every time I come across a new one I haven't seen, I'm like, oh, I got to write that down. I got to check that when I get home. So this program kind of rewrote my brain so that I'm into them now, and it's that's really helped me. And just with all the different jobs I've done, different people I've talked throughout my walks of life, just the multifaceted aspects of the program. You know, you're learning about culture, politics, language, literature, all sorts of stuff that really prepares you for all the different things you're likely to encounter in Japan. You know, no matter what kind of job you're in, and the different contexts you might have to deal with. So in that respect, yeah, it gave me a lot more confidence to like navigate life in Japan.
Thank you.
Thank
That's really interesting. So I think it's so interesting for all of us who are here as faculty, just to hear your comments about these things. I think the last kind of organized thing we wanted to ask you to talk about was if you have a message or something you'd like to convey to the current students. This is very open-ended, but any advice for folks? Yeah. Keikilani, and then we're going to open it up for questions from everybody. Yeah, go ahead.
So when I was at UCSD, like there's always stuff like events that pop up every single time, and like every week there's like a new event going on for this, like the NSU or the Japanese Student Association, and sometimes there's study abroad. For me, when I was in university, and my parents, before I went, they said, just apply for everything, join everything, whatever, just go, just keep doing stuff. Just, oh, there's this event for blah, blah, okay, you're going to it. And oh, there's a project, I think it was the Kakehashi project with the GPS program at UCSD, and they had like, oh, they're allowing people that are, like, I remember getting an email from Kubi saying that, oh, they're allowing undergraduates to go. So please write something about your interest in Japanese economy, and then send it in, and then the program will decide whether to let you in. And then like 3 of us got in. I was like, oh, okay. And then we got like I think it was like a week in Japan, fully paid for. They paid for everything, hotel. And then it was a little rough because the first day you arrive, and then you're just 8 a.m. you're meeting everybody that's important, and then, oh, undergraduates, you're taking what level of Japanese? Okay, you go talk to the official from the Ministry of something. I was like, you're like shaking. You don't know that much Japanese. So yeah, there's like, I joined NSU. I went to the JSA meetings. There's like volunteer stuff to go to Manzanar, with the Nikkei Student Union. There's other classes like you just, yeah, but yeah, just keep applying to any opportunity that UCSD has, because it's always going to be good. I remember after I graduated, I was in Fukushima and I saw on the UCSD like Japanese website, oh, we're having this ex-baseball coach from Japan doing a speech in UCSD, and I was so devastated because I wasn't going to school anymore. I was like, oh, I can't believe it. I could have went there. I was like, oh, I just got held back one more time. But yeah, just keep like any event that's related to Japanese, just go to it. Just always just apply to it, because like it'll always be good, because then you'll meet someone there that you end up being in Japan, and then they'll help you out later on. Or yeah, just any class that you're interested in, just take it. It doesn't matter if it's super difficult. You might cry while you're taking it, but just keep joining everything. Yeah. So.
Thank you. Megan.
I think I've got, I guess it's sort of two sort of cliche bits of advice. I mean, I was just looking for a new position, and so this is, I guess, more directed to those of you who are graduating sooner rather than later. But I've found that trying to manage my expectations, and also kind of the expectations of my employers, has been something that I've had to work on, because I love JET. Don't get me wrong, I love JET, but some of the hours the teachers work, I mean, they'd be in there at 5 a.m. and you're 5 minutes before class, you're catching up with them like, oh yeah, I went home at like midnight last night. I'm like, I'm sorry, you went home when? So I would do my best to try and help them out, but at the same time I had to make sure that I wasn't like trying to take on too much, because I did not want to be there until midnight. I'm sorry. I love the school, I love the kids, love the teachers. I was not going to be there till midnight. So trying to make sure that I was setting my expectations of, okay, I'm going to try and help and do this, and making sure that matched up with what everyone else was hearing, which is in there in that like kind of cultural exchange, because is it a never ending offer of assistance? Does this have like, is it just this one time? Those kinds of things were something that had to be worked out along the way. And even just when it came to looking for a job, it's like, okay, well, what am I expecting? I'm like, I don't know what I'm expecting. And so trying to make those defined like boundaries was important, and I think ultimately very, very helpful, because once those boundaries were defined and we stuck with them, it made communication and relationships a lot smoother. So communication is key, but also at the end of the day, sometimes you just got to go for it. I got the email about the job that I'm currently at, and I was like, I mean, the worst thing they can say is no. So I applied, and then I got it, and I was like, oh, okay. this was beyond my expectation. I was like, oh, okay. One of the things they had during the interview was like, please take a test. I'm like, I hope no one's testing me on my business Japanese, because I'm not mentally prepared to do that. But I went and I tried, and it went fine, and they liked me enough to hire me. So, worst things they can say is no. So at the end of the day, you do just kind of got to go for it.
Thank you, Megan. Jack.
Yeah, similar thing to, I would say, as both the other students said, do just try things. If it doesn't work out, that's fine, forget about it. But you never know what kind of opportunity can come your way. So especially with, I wish I had tried more things when I was at USD. I was a shy guy, and learning Japanese and moving to Japan and having to, constantly teach or introduce myself really helped me break out of my shell a lot. And I'm grateful for that. But, from the start, just do anything, try anything. You know, life is about making connections as well, especially in Japan. So, you know, not only while you're here at UCSD, try everything you can, but once, you know, if you move to Japan, just, you know, if somebody invites you to something, I say go for it. You never know what kind of connections you might make. And they are very important. And, you know, if just try, there's nothing wrong with trying and failing. So if, you know, just move on to the next thing. I had a similar thing with my job I had now. I thought it was kind of a long shot, but I was like, why not? So I just applied, and then like a week later I had the job, just like Megan. I was like, what? I can't believe this. So let's say, and just talk as much as you can. If you want to practice your language, you know, just use it as much as you can, right? Even when you're at home, just practice writing by yourself. Yeah, just don't be afraid to make mistakes, because everyone does, and nobody really remembers. They remember you trying, they don't remember you failing. So just yep, try a lot of things. That's it.
Thank you. So we're going to open it up to questions now, and because a few of you came in a little late, I'll just remind you, in case you missed initial introductions, that Keikilani is managing a small business he created after being on JET, and he is going to go to GPS grad school at UCSD next year. Megan was also on JET, and she worked in human resources for a while at a tech company and is now at the Japan Foundation in the section for Japanese language program grants. Jack was at UCSD, and he has taught English, and he's now Associate Liaison Specialist for International Affairs in Fukuoka University, Fukuoka Institute of Technology. So those are the three alumni that you've been hearing from. And we have one question. I'll just start with that in the chat, while anyone else, feel free to raise your hand and we'll just let you speak, or you can put a question in chat, either one. Hannah May asked, I think, a question probably everybody's interested in, and you guys may have, you know, it's one thing to say that you got out of UCSD and then you did something or other, but if you're a student just thinking about graduating, you sort of want to know, where do you start, right? And Hannah May said, are there any opportunities for jobs in San Diego related to Japanese? And second question, what's a good place to start a job search? And I'm not going to go in order here. Any one of the three of you who has something to say, would you just jump in?
I'm going to jump in on this. So this was definitely something that I have run across like a couple of times this past year. So, and in general, I've actually found speaking with recruiters to be quite helpful, because not only is it literally their job to help you find a job, they also have a wider network that they might be able to access that you might not be able to. So for Japan or Japanese jobs in the US, Pasona is one. There's also STS Careers, and I can drop those in the chat. I don't think I have their links on me anymore, but
and anything you don't have immediately, if you send it to Kumi, she can we can send it out to our list, right, Kumi?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, please send it to me, and then I'll share everything.
Awesome. Those are the two that I've mainly used. Pasona also has a very large presence in Japan as well as the rest of the world. So if it's something where you know, you'd like to start in the US and then make your way to Japan, that's also potentially an avenue where you're not just like using them as a recruiting company, but also if you get hired by them specifically, there's the opportunity to potentially work in Japan there as well. STS Careers is another recruiting agency. They're more focused on the US and jobs using Japanese language in the US. But while I didn't end up, you know, getting any of the positions that they found for me purely because I accepted my current position first. That is something that I did find very helpful as a starting point. And then there's also like LinkedIn and stuff. But
Does anyone else want to comment on this? The how do you get started piece? Okay, so the next question I see in chat, I don't see any hands. So the next question that this one is from Ying Qin, and she said she'd like to know how the teaching methods and curriculum structure are designed in the Japanese education system, and is there a huge difference between teaching and learning in the US? Seems to me, she says, that the two cultures, US and Japan, are very different cultures, political, economic systems. So how do you get yourself to balance or integrate the impact of both cultures for a short period of time?
I can, well, okay, so I have taught in Japanese junior high school and elementary school for about 10 years. And I don't know if that's specifically what we're talking about, the education system over there, but yeah, it is quite different. And that is probably the most difficult part of the job to get used to if you're doing that. It's much more teacher focused in Japan instead of whereas maybe the Western or the US style is more of a conversation. In Japan, it is more like the teacher is telling the students things, and that's how it works in English class as well too. So there's a surprisingly small amount of actual English being spoken in the classes. And if you're working in as an ALT, there is, it's really, it goes on, it's kind of a teacher by teacher and class by class basis. So some teachers will be really open to changing their style and working together with you and planning lessons together, and other teachers will not be that. They will just say, this is what we're doing, and you do this, and that's about it. And there's not a whole lot you can do. So I think the best thing is to be flexible and open to whatever they want you to do. Because a lot of times, just if you don't do what they want you to do, maybe nobody's going to explicitly come out against you, but things are just not going to go your way. So it really depends on the school and the teacher and the class. But sometimes, you know, some of the teachers are really great and you can do some wonderful lessons together with them. And they will want to introduce a more conversational style to the class, but it really depends. I think that's been my experience.
Yeah. Keikilani?
So I was teaching in Fukushima for about 5 years. And when COVID hit, we lost a lot of teachers. So like we had 5 teachers and each teacher had 20 schools. And it was awful. It was terrible. And so we're all traveling to different schools. And yeah, that was one of the things I didn't like about what Jet says, like every situation is different. They keep saying that to you over and over again. And it's true. It's painfully true, because like you can go to a school and the teachers are so happy. Oh yeah, the foreign teacher's here. Yeah, we can do English. Oh, they're so excited. And you go to another school and they just look at you like, this is how we do things here. It's like, and you try to be nice and they're like, no. This is our school. So then you'll get like sidelined in the class. You just be standing by the door all day for all the classes. And then like you go to another school, it's all hands-on. You get to make tests, you get to do all kinds of cool stuff. And then you go back to that school, you're like, oh, big reality check. But yeah, the thing is like their education system over there does put a lot of stress on the teacher, because the students are at school like of the 5 days of the week, but then also on the weekend because they have club activities. So the teacher not only has to do classes all day and grade all their papers and their notebooks and all this other stuff, they have to stay for club activities. So then I kind of shot myself in the foot because I said I played baseball. So then I got nominated to coach every school I went to. So then they're like, oh, Kick Sensei, come teach. Da, 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 da. So I'll be out on the field with the students, be 6 o'clock, I'll be tired in my suit, throwing batting practice. And it's in the middle of summer, burning hot. And I'll be playing with the kids. Oh, this is fun, but I'm dying. I don't know how these teachers do it because like they're out there all day and then they gotta prep the kid to go to the high school, like, and then they also teach moral education. So like the teacher takes also a role of a parent because they're with the students, not as much as the parent, but almost equal to. So like they have to teach them the social norms, all the social values of like what their like society likes. So the teacher has a lot of like extra stress, but they also have this extra level of respect that they get because when you say you're a teacher in Japan, oh, sensei, the whole, and it doesn't matter what job the other person does, could be a police officer, firefighter, they see you differently. They see you as, oh, you help our children, like you're like a parent to these kids. So then you get this like kind of level of respect. And then if you go to a restaurant or something, oh, thank you. Oh, it's small. And then they'll like buy you dinner or something. I was like at McDonald's, and like, oh, Sensei, are you hungry? They'll go get me like a chocolate pie or something. It's like, here. I was like, no, I already have one. Oh, well, you need two, you big American man. So like they definitely treat you differently. They like, if you're a teacher, you get treated really well, but then like you have a lot of extra, like, because you're doing a lot of work because you have to teach the kids moral education and then be there for them for like what they want to do in the future. And you have to give them counseling. Like there's school counselors, but it's usually for stuff that like personal problems that they're dealing with. Counselors are like the teachers themselves, and they have to contact all the schools. And like I remember going to work and seeing them with a pile, just stacks on stacks of paperwork. And then when I regret offering to help them because then they push it all, you know. It's like, oh, I can grade some of your notebooks. Like, oh, okay. And then all of a sudden the teacher's, oh, you're grading notebooks? Here's the first graders, first class from 1 all the way to 7, all of that one. And I'm like, no, I just wanted to help a little bit. But yeah, there's like extra stress on the teachers. And there's the teachers in the States, like they get a lot of, I don't know, they get blamed for a lot of stuff, but then like they're not with the students like all the time. So like they're not teaching them certain things. Like they just teach them what's in the textbook. Yeah. But definitely in the English classes, some teachers are really nice to work with. Some they just don't like. I don't know why they taught English if they don't like speaking English to another foreigner. I was like, hey, how are you? I was oh, okay, whatever. So yeah, it's pretty different, but after a while, you kind of get used to it, but you also don't. You just kind of take it with a grain of salt. You know, this is just how it is. So yeah.
Megan, did you have any? We have about 4 or 5 minutes left. Megan, do you have anything to add?
I mean, I think it's pretty much all been said. I mean, it is very much a balancing act. It is very much and very, very dependent on the teacher and the school. And even within the same like school itself, you can have teachers that vary wildly. And I mean, elementary school versus junior high school, that's different. I mean, I have had occasions where the teacher was like, so what are we doing today? And I'm like, it's been about a week and a half since I saw your students. Where are they? They're like, oh, we're around here. I'm like, okay. Tanaka-kun, what page? Did you finish coloring the apples? Yes. Okay, cool. Now I know what we're doing. I know what we're doing today. Got it. Okay. Whereas another teacher that I worked with, like, she ran her class exactly the same way. So I walked into her class after the first couple of weeks working with her. I knew exactly what she was going to do, when she was going to do it. The only thing I needed to know was if it was a day we were focusing on grammar or if we were focusing on the text of the textbook. Like that was the biggest difference between the way she ran her classes. And she was still more than welcome or more than happy to like have me pitch in here or there, like if her example sentence was wrong or if there was like a little cultural thing that a kid had a question about. But she was very much the lead teacher. And I was like, great, cool. I'm not the one certified to teach. You're willing to listen to my input and ask for it at times. I would occasionally get calls from her, like after work when she was grading people's tests for like midterms or finals and like read off the answers, be like, okay, do you think this is worth 3 points or 2 points or 1 point or no points? I'm like, okay, got it. Here you go. But yeah, it's very different. So I also came with the thing that, you know, my last name's Murata. I know I don't look particularly half. I am half, but a lot of people assumed I had married a Japanese man. So there was a lot of questions about how my husband was and how my kids were. But that also meant that everyone assumed that I had been living in Japan for a while. And so I had that as kind of like an in terms of balancing things. So it wasn't all bad. It was very entertaining after a while to be like, okay, how long can I get into this conversation without being asked about my husband? But I think I mean, on Jet, you get tired of hearing ESID, but it is very, very accurate.
I want to, so thank you, Megan. And I wanted to just thank everybody. We're almost exactly at our end point here. And I wanted to just remind you that a couple of resources, Kumi's been putting things in the chat that have to do with orgs in response to people saying you should join everything and do everything and just get out there. And basically what I'm hearing is that community matters, that connections matter, that if you have some experiences, you build some networks that can lead you to your next step after you leave here. I think you can tell from the fact that we've got 3 alumni this year, and we've had 3 to 5 every year for the past few years. The connections to UCSD as a community don't stop when you graduate. And some of the students, of course, return here or go other places for grad school. Some go straight into professional work. Some stay in Japan. And you've got examples of that from Jack, Megan, and Keikilani here today. And of course, you can contact me or you can contact Kumi, and we can get you in touch with people that are in various places as alumni. So this is a meeting that lasts an hour, but the connections go way beyond this. So feel free to keep communicating with us. And we'll have information about the PASONA and the STS as, I think that was a really excellent question, Haname. Thank you for asking about that, because I think it is hard to know what the first step is, right? And sometimes the first step isn't going to take you where you want to be. It'll just take you to the next place from which you'll take another step. And that's sort of what I've been hearing. And the last thing I just wanted to say is, I think each one of you mentioned at some point building confidence throughout your time at UCSD and beyond. And I think this is a very important part of the story that I'm hearing from all of you, is that there's a kind of sense that I can do this. And I might have to fail once or twice, but it doesn't matter because I can do something else. I can keep going. And that building of confidence, anything we can contribute as faculty or as a program to give you a place where you can build that kind of confidence, I think that's, it's a kind of extracurricular, but it's also built into our classrooms. It's an important part of the experience of education here, I think. So I was really happy to hear that many of you built confidence here while you were here. And I don't think we all really know if we're doing anything that makes that happen. But I think as a community, there's something you can't put your finger on that sort of builds a place where you can do that. So thank you very much, Megan, Keikilani, and Jack. And I appreciate everybody coming. And Kumi, thank you for organizing this. As always, you do a spectacular job of getting people together.
Thank you. And if I may add just one thing, just go talk to your faculty during their office hours, just email them. Your, just like Christina said, your connection doesn't end when you graduate. Maybe later in your career, you decide to go to a graduate school and you're going to need a recommendation letter. You never know. So please go talk to your faculty. They're always like available during their office hours, and just go from there. All right, so thank you so much. And thank you to all the 3 alumni. Thank you so much, Christina, for hosting this wonderful event. This will be available once I put it on YouTube and then put it on our website. And I'll share all 3 of your testimonials on our website as well after this event sometime next week. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, Kumi.
Thank you.
Yeah.